Are you a podcast show host, or are you thinking of starting a podcast show? Very exciting. Sometimes in your journey, you'll lose energy, you'll lose momentum, and sometimes just feel, quite frankly, stuck. In this episode, I'm going to give you some personal branding tips that are going to help lay a foundation to help you uplift your journey as a podcast host and give you more momentum and stamina. Stay tuned.
You're listening to The Brand Compass, conversations to navigate your way to building a brand fit for purpose and poised for success. Here's your host, 𝗘𝗣𝗜𝗦𝗢𝗚.
Hello there, my friend, and we are back. Thank you for tapping on this episode and joining us today. This is the place where we get into all the ways in which your personal brand meets the humans you serve. And if you are a podcast host or thinking of starting a podcast, then you are in luck, as we are going to specifically get into some personal branding tips just for you today. So I'm 𝗘𝗣𝗜𝗦𝗢𝗚, in case you're new to the show, and I'm your host on this conversational journey, and I've invited back my work colleague and friend, Imogen Jones, who is a regular friend of the show. So we're going to open up the floor on this topic between us. We did something similar in episode 52, where we shared some lessons that we've learned behind the scenes in running and hosting a podcast show. So feel free to zoot over and watch that if you like. That's episode 52. It was one of our most listened to episodes, so it went down really well. Without further ado, though, let me bring Imogen on, and then we can get going. Welcome, Imogen.
Hello, it's nice to be back again.
Yay! Now, after episode 66, we had Mark on, and we tried our first 3-person episode, which was nerve-wracking, but it worked. It did. We talked about a few points and prompts around personal branding, and then towards the end, you and I we looped it into podcasting, and we thought, oh, actually, there's more we could talk about on that. Hence today, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's an important topic, and it came up a lot when I went to the podcast shows, so it's good to have a conversation about it.
Nice, and we could pull it out. Right, so should we get you to kick off, Imogen, and maybe bring our first tip for podcast show hosts on what the advantages are on actually working on their personal brand?
So if you spend some time working on your personal brand, it helps you with authenticity. It's a word we hear quite a lot bandied around, but that really resonating with your audience. If you spend some time looking into who you are, what you truly believe, then you are then talking from a place of confidence. So you are happy to be chatting, and if you get challenged on anything, you know where you stand on a topic because you've really thought it through.
Yeah, and that can happen when you're on a show, because sometimes a guest will throw a curveball at you.
Well, exactly. And if you spent that time discussing and thinking about it, and the work we do with people is, understanding what their strengths are, where their values lie. And if you're really confident in that, you don't have to second guess yourself. So when you're then talking on a podcast, either as a guest or as a host, if you're managing it, you know exactly where you stand, and then your audience can feel that. They will then be able to connect with you better.
Nice. And I think you can relax a bit more as well. So the more you're being yourself, the more you can just relax into a conversation, and you're not on your guard, are you? Yeah.
I would say it's, the way people are going to then experience you will be in a consistent way as well. You're not reinventing yourself for every episode. Yeah. If you know yourself deeply, you don't have to think about it. You're just being yourself. And you're not putting on a front or a show for any thing you recorded.
And you're being exactly the you that you are when you're out in the world, as opposed to behind the microphone. So you're a lot closer to just being yourself, and it takes a lot less energy to have to just be yourself. So you don't get exhausted by doing that as well. I think there's the bit about that you were talking about there, where you do need to look at your values and things like that. There's another piece of work that you end up doing when you're doing personal branding, and this is the bit about almost timelining how you got to where you are today, and looking at everything you've brought to the table today from your previous careers and work experience. You know, we go through, well, particularly when we work with clients, we go through their strengths work as well to kind of really get down to their genius gifts and things. But also what happens when you do that work, hopefully you agree with me, is that you actually remember that you are actually good at what you do and that you actually know what you're talking about. So you're actually speaking from a place of knowing, which brings me to my tip being your permission to speak. You almost have permission to speak on a topic because actually you are good at what you do. And you've just shown that you actually have the evidence to show that you've got that experience as well. Am I making sense?
So yeah, well, it's like you're saying, by going through the work and highlighting and documenting where you've come from, you can go, actually, I do know what I'm talking about. I do know how to help people, and I can demonstrate that through the way I portray myself.
Exactly.
So,
and I forgot, we also do credibility points, don't we?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know, and British people don't like doing credibility points, do they? Do you want to explain why they don't like doing credibility points, Imogen?
It's because we're much too humble. As British people, we do not want to put ourselves out there. We just kind of expect people to just understand that we are brilliant at what we do. But by doing the personal branding work and documenting how brilliant you are along the way, and then the credibility points that come from that, we have that confidence then, don't we, to go, actually, we are brilliant, and we just need to make sure people hear that and understand it. So, so going back to the point that you were saying about the permission to speak, it's understanding you are brilliant and then having that confidence to put that forward.
Because you're speaking from a place of knowing. But also I think we forget, don't we? Like, you know, from if I think of just me, for example, being 15 years down the line now from when I first started out in the space, I've forgotten the amount of clients, the amount of industries, the amount of, I don't know, you know, meetings or one-to-one training, or because we do all of those kind of number crunches. But when you look at that, you go, oh gosh, well, actually, yes, you know, I've put more than my 10,000 hours in, as Malcolm Gladwell would say. Yeah. But you know what I mean? So it's almost, sometimes we just forget that actually we've done the work, or we've put the time in, and it's actually useful to have that reflection time to just remember that actually you have put the time in.
Yeah, you've put the time in, and you're confident that you can talk to customers. And, well, you know you can talk to customers because you've been doing it all this time, but that you don't need to prove yourself over and over again. So with the personal brand work, like you said, it just gives that, I guess, reassurance to you that by pulling it all out, documenting it, putting it into a bit of a timeline, that you have gone from here to here to here, and you are the expert that's going to help people. So when you're then talking on podcasts, you know that you're talking from a place, like you said, of knowing.
It's dialing down the imposter syndrome, ultimately, isn't it? That's what it's doing for all of us. So I think the other element, if we loop it back into podcasting, as a podcast host, if you've got this permission to speak, I feel like, especially for me, I feel like I can go deeper on my topic because I don't have to almost do the fluffy kind of content or conversation to kind of prove that I know what I'm talking about. I can actually just get into the thing, and by being able to go deeper, I can go broader. And I've definitely felt that with my show, being able to go, I am making sense. I actually do have all these years behind me.
So as a host, you found that beneficial then. So working on that has given you that depth of not knowledge, because the knowledge is already there. It's just that pulling it out to the front to go, actually, I'm not thinking, oh gosh, but somebody else knows more than I do. Well, you know what you know, and you've got to where you are from everything that you've learned, and that means your clients don't know everything that you've learned.
No. And also can like almost start to have slightly different conversations as opposed to how-to conversations. I can actually talk about the topics that, you know, are a bit deeper. So I've definitely enjoyed that side to it. I know you like this topic. Tone of voice.
So yeah, I think as a podcast host, obviously you're putting yourself out there, either, you know, audibly absolutely, but visually as well a lot of the time. So the tone of voice isn't necessarily just about, you know, exactly how you sound, although that working on that is really, really important. So if you are somebody who is softly spoken, if you come across as, you know, too energetic and too crazy, then it might then disconnect. Whereas if you know exactly the kind of person you're putting yourself out there, so that is, you know, also visually, so it could be the way you present yourself and the way you look. If you're always coming across very polished and then you put on a show and you come up in, you know, joggy bottoms and a hoodie, then it might be disjointed for your viewers. So having that work done on yourself, it's not to say that we can't change outfits. Obviously we can turn up as we are, but that, yeah, the tone of voice is not only how we talk and how we want to be perceived, but in how we want everybody to feel us as well.
Yeah. And I think when you do that well-rounded element of the tone of voice stuff, particularly when it gets into podcasting, it actually almost helps you decide your flow and your format of your show, as well as, you know, the obvious stuff of your theme music, you know, your theme tune, your intros, your outros. It just helps to guide, almost like a little compass. You know, for my show, for example, my brief for them for the music was Pink Panther meets Big Band. So I wanted like playful, but you know what I mean? So playful.
Yeah, energetic as well.
Energetic.
So yeah. So I mean, that's with the visuals as well, isn't it? With the branding visuals. Like our client, Ali, that we worked with, she's a big Marvel and a Marvel
superhero fan.
Superheroes things. So that came through in her artwork and how she wanted to be experienced by her listeners and viewers. So those kind of, having that thought of how it all works holistically as a bigger package, how you want to be put across. So if, like you said, I said, more out there, more outrageous, or more just like quieter and more thoughtful, then we pick at all of these little bits and pieces when we're doing personal brand to pull that all together as a nice package.
And just pull through that consistency. Yeah. Exactly. Perfect. Yeah, exactly. And a little bit that comes into that tone of voice bit and personality work and experience bit. And actually, right from the beginning, when we first started, we were talking about the element of being yourself and being authentically yourself is to actually find out how you are unique and how you are different. And this is something that everybody gets a little bit scared to do, I think. I don't know if you feel the same, because like, well, how can we possibly be different? There's how many billions of people on Earth? How's it possible?
I guess so, yeah. I guess the uniqueness is always, we are the person that's unique. But even when I've done the work, and I'm sure other people are doing that work, you write down those things, you're like, yeah, but that's not different than so-and-so, and that's not different than so-and-so. However, the uniqueness doesn't come from each individual piece of that. It comes from all of those pieces put together. So whilst, I've come from the corporate background, so, well, there's plenty of marketeers and people in the podcast space that have come from a marketing background. But actually what would stand apart from me is that I've come from customer service before I went into marketing. So I come from thinking about it from a customer view. So that uniqueness of who you are, depends on the questions, isn't it? When we're talking with clients, it's pulling out those little nuggets of information, where they came from, what happened in their childhood, what happened in their previous roles, why do they think differently.
And while we do like some of the the proper old school marketing exercise of market context, right? I hate market context exercise, but they're useful because it makes you go and look what other people are doing, isn't it? And while yes, you shouldn't compare yourself to other people, that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is your ideal clients that are out there, they are busy looking for the thing that you do, and if you don't know what other people are offering, that you're offering, they're potentially offering a similar thing, they won't be able to weigh you up with these other competitors, because if you haven't done the personal branding work, and we were talking a little bit about this before we started recording, is say you've come out of corporate and you've decided I'm going to set myself up as X, the subject matter expert, consultant, coach, or whatever in this, in this area, and you haven't bothered to look at what's going on in the marketplace, and you haven't actually bothered to do the personal branding work yet, because you feel like, sometimes people feel like this, they come out of employment, they go, it will be easy, all I'll do is resign. I'll get my computer, I'll get a nice outfit, go out networking, and people will just clamor to work with me. That will not happen. And what your personal branding work actually helps with is this element of, oh, okay, so actually who else is doing what I'm doing? All right, so actually I'm saying a very generic thing right now. So nobody can hear me and they can't see me because I'm blending into the murkiness of everybody else who does what I do. And when you're a podcast host, if you've actually done this work as well, then depending on your subject matter area, you will have done this work where you've had to really work out, well, actually, why am I unique? So for me, for example, I'm South African, so I talk about this whole element of my cultural upbringing was completely different to other people's cultural upbringing. Just because I'm a white female doesn't mean, and I speak English, does not mean that, you and I have had to, the same lived experience. And it's similar.
And then offers different perspectives as well. It offers a different point of view.
Exactly. So someone will want to pick you, won't they? So they go, okay, Imogen, she's got Spanish roots. She's, she's got a golden retriever. She's a dog mom.
My little mug today.
So you got your mug. There you go. Here you go. For everybody listening, there was a mug shown on camera. You have to go watch the video. But you won't know these differences unless you actually just sit back and reflect and go, actually, my differences are good. The things that have brought me where I am today are good. How can I embrace them? Because actually it will make you stand out from everybody else.
It's also, absolutely, it makes you good, but it also brings that connection, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. So by having those different points of view and those unique points of view or unique experiences, you're attracting different people into your world. So by sharing those, you're giving people and I think this was from Vinh Yang course on communication, was that you're giving them like little lines for them to hook onto. Yes. So by opening that conversation, rather than being, I'm Imogen, I work on podcasts, I help people with their podcast strategy and then launching them, I am saying, I'm Imogen and I, like you said, I have a golden retriever, my family are from Spain, I live near Oxford, all of these little things.
And you're a runner. And you're a runner.
And I'm a runner. Yeah, exactly. And a reader, because we do like to geek out on our fantasy books. I've got a few more to add to our list.
Oh dear.
But it's in those places, those things make us unique, but then also the experiences we've had through our past, through our learning. So where we've come from as a subject matter expert, it might have been very linear. It might have been gone to uni, did this, did that, and now I'm helping people with consultancy or training or whatever you're doing. Or it might be that you've come from completely different angles, which give you a completely different way to think, which might resonate with the people, your followers, to go, actually, that's good, because I need somebody who's thinking different. I don't want somebody in my industry who's only come from here to give their expertise, because I've got that myself, or I've got that in the world that I already live in.
And what's nice when you're a podcast host, isn't it, is that if you've reflected on that, you've embraced that, you can bring some of that into how you do your show or the topics you choose or how you get around a subject with a guest or just with yourself.
I was going to say, like, even we were talking earlier in metaphors, because you're a big music fan, so you bring a lot of musical metaphors into things. And I listened to a couple of podcasts, and one of them, she's more of a gym bunny than she is a runner, but she uses running type metaphors, and it's like, okay,
I can
understand that. I get that. Yeah. So you don't know where you're picking up by people. By being unique and putting yourself out there. You don't know where you're picking up those followers.
No, and how you all of a sudden become visible to somebody, whether it's visible by hearing or visible by seeing, you just don't know. But I think by embracing all of that, all that personal brand work, it does make you glow, and then the right people are going to see the glow.
Like I said, because I think for me as well with that, it's like you said, you hear something that you go, oh my God, I didn't know they knew that, or I didn't know they did that. and then suddenly they are a much bigger picture of somebody that I follow. So on LinkedIn, that I know vaguely, they've said something or they put a post out where I'm like, oh, and then I've leaned in and I'm now paying attention to their content.
Yes,
So,
exactly. No, I do love that part as well. I've just thought of one extra one that we hadn't really thought about before is, I know when we do our personal branding work, we have some clients that are just not visual at all. You know, they find it really difficult to think visually. So obviously we have different ways of working with clients, but we do these mood boards, don't we? And I thought, actually, that's quite handy because, again, when you get to designing your show
comes back to that tone of voice, isn't it? Tone of voice, how you want to be experienced and felt.
Yeah. So the way you want to be experienced is, yes, audibly, you know, and behaviorally, but also visually. But we give clients these different themed boards based on, we use the brand archetypes to help kind of elicit their personalities. Yeah. And I know, like, our designer gets really excited when we've done this work with clients because she gets to ask better questions of her clients, because we'll go, okay, go and have a look at these different archetype boards, but then any colors that jump out at you, just copy and paste the images, you know, symbols and things like that. And I think as a podcast show host, if you've also done that work as well, again, it really does help you to direct the visual aspects to your show, because you've still got your clips, don't you? You've got your social content.
Even if you're not videoing it to be shared as a video podcast, but like you said, for discoverability, the videos are really important. So having that branding in the background does make such a huge difference. And you mentioned before, I think with the jingles and stuff like that, for people to then recognize the look, feel, and what they're expecting to hear. It just pulls everything together as a nice package.
Do you want to talk also a little bit about, you know, I know with Ali this really helped her with her show. When we do the personal branding work, you know, after we've done the whole, okay, these are your strengths, this is the field that you're in, this is the offer that you're doing, we come up with content themes. Do you want to talk a little bit about how that actually helps direct podcast show hosts as well?
So with the content themes, so obviously we do it for in some of the personal branding work as well, but with the podcast, it's just to keep those topics on point. So with the podcast, when you do your strategy, not if.
Not if, it is when.
When you do your strategy, understanding what you're trying to achieve from the podcast, then you hang your themes based on that. So if you are looking for, you know, conversions, or if you're looking for sales, or if you're looking to put yourself out there as an expert, depending on what you're trying to achieve will depend on what you want to then pull through as your content themes for your podcast. So that could be, you know, if you're looking to work strategically with guests, then the changes you're making in your clients' lives might be one of the content themes.
Like a transformation theme.
Transformation theme, maybe some educational themes. It's like, you know, what actually the work entails, or what how working with you is going to look like for them. So having those themes just helps the consistency of the show. It helps taking the guesswork out of what you're trying to plan, because it's hard enough to pull the podcast together, but then keeping the recording and the momentum up. Correct. If you've got those themes already nailed out, then you know what you're looking to achieve, and then you can pick your topics out based on those themes.
And I think the reason we do it with the personal branding is just so that, you know, once you've done all of that work in your personal branding strategy, you've at least got an avenue to just direct, you know, getting your voice out there. So we do a very top level in terms of content themes. But then when you go on and do your podcast show, like for Ali, for example, it really helped to really have thought about top level themes within the strategy. And also I think it helped her to direct, okay, like what is the purpose of each of the episode, you know, within the scope of the whole show, but also to mix things up.
Yeah, so I was going to say that as well when you start, is making sure that you are then picking stuff from each of the content themes to make sure that it is then working towards the. And
we like colours, don't we? So we do color codes. Well, you do color codes on the themes. We've got a big planning document for our podcast clients, don't we? And then
Again,
you
it
could
keeps it
go
visual, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you've got a lot of blues and pinks but no greens or anything, then you go, actually, I need to start pulling that. I knew that was important for me and my show. Why am I not talking about it, or why am I not bringing more of that content into the show?
Yeah. Whew, right, so let's do a little recap. You're going to have to help me remember now. That's like, so we did the being authentically aligned. So being you, that was our first personal branding
helps you
advantage.
be confident and resonate with your audience.
Mm-hmm. The next point we did was around this permission to speak. Yeah, so dialing down their imposter syndrome.
Imposter syndrome, and knowing that you are valuable and you have great expertise.
Yes, you do. And what was the third one, Imogen?
The third one was tone of voice. So getting your personality through with your voice.
Yes. And then we moved on to talk about the uniqueness work, your human diversity, that kind of stuff that really helps to give people context of why you're the person to work with.
Yeah, context and flavour, so that they know you're their person.
Yeah. And then we added in the mood boards.
Like I say, it's a piece of work that we do, but I think because it comes quite towards the end, and it is more that to try and pull those flavours together to help the designer. I hadn't really thought about how important that is just for ourselves, because I know what I like, so I'm quite visual in that way. But pulling those things together was really helpful for me, just to see it all documented. To go, okay, that does feel like me.
And Ali's feedback when she did that is because she came out of big corporate, years ago, 10 plus years ago. And she'd always had in her head, this is just an example for the listeners, she'd always had in her head that blue was bad and evil and corporate. And there's no way she'd ever have blue. And then we did these mood boards, and I just gave, she picked it. I didn't do it. Gave her these archetype boards and said, right, go wild, like pick colors, pick themes, pick symbols, shapes, whatever's going on, And do you know how much blue and shades of blue and yellow and stuff? And she's like, I can't actually believe I chose. I said, yeah, but blue is like, there's so many. There's so many.
It's such. I think it's quite a calming colour, isn't it? As well.
Very calming.
I've always said things like I don't like pink and I don't like. And then I realise actually I like all of them. They're just in different. In different ways, exactly. So she's ended up with like these beautiful turquoisey, greeny blues that looks really beautiful in there. So, thanks, Imogen. I think we did all right then. Is there anything that we didn't get to cover that you just want to throw in now, or? No, I think we covered it all. I'm sure we'll have plenty more to
chew
say.
on later. Okay, cool. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Imo. I really appreciate your time today and coming to join me. Thanks, man.
Thank you so much for having me again.
And that's it for this episode, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. Maybe as a result of everything that Imogen and I got into today, we'll maybe have shown you two things. Firstly, that personal branding work actually covers more than you think it does. And secondly, you can maybe see why we love advocating for podcasting as a way to get your voice and your personality out there as a subject matter expert. If you're curious about podcasting or personal branding, you can speak to either of us. I'll put our contact details in the show notes for you. We'd love to chat to you. But here's also a quick reminder on how to support the show by doing one of three simple things. Firstly, click the follow or subscribe button on your favorite podcast app. Number 2, giving a review. If you've loved a particular episode, pop it in the review as well and let us know. Number 3, very simply, just tell one new friend about the show. Everything helps to open up the show to a more diverse listenership and bring more people into this conversation of being more of ourselves more of the time. Who do you know that could do with hearing this conversation and our insights on how personal branding work can uplift and support great podcast show hosts so that they are clearer, calmer, and more people can hear them? Share this episode. Go on, you know you want to. Until next time, my friend, stay strong, believe you have value, and make good brand decisions.
Thank you for listening to The Brand Compass. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to share it with your entrepreneurial friends and help them make good brand decisions. Until next time, Let's keep the conversation going at shelleyrossland.com.